I'm Tim Hayward. I love writing about food and all of the things that are attendant on that these days. So I like writing about it, talking about it, presenting about it, speaking about it. Mainly any medium you can give me in which to enthuse about nosh, I'm your man. The second book is called The DIY Cook. We realised, I think, that a lot of the readers of the first book really enjoyed reading about food in a very different way. It's not just recipes that are there so you can have a good dinner party or so you can make speedy ways with mince for busy mums or any of those things. It wasn't offering answers in that respect. I think we've identified an audience of people who are food hobbyists. People who love food, love the pleasure of playing with it and working with it and expanding their own knowledge of it. In the same way as you might, I don't know, you own a classic car or you're a photographer, you want to learn and you want to develop your technique. So what I've done with this one is taken 10 fantastic classic recipes for a variety of odd things, from lobster thermidor through to cassoulet to something called vincis grassi, which is an 18th century super lasagna with hundreds of layers of really rich, delicious truffles and pieces of bird in it. Oh, it's a wonderful thing. But each one of these recipes is huge, and it's going to take you a whole day to do it. But you'll do it because of the pleasure of actually doing it. You do it once. Maybe you want to invite your friends around to taste it. Maybe you want to invite your friends around while you're making it. But it's this thing about the hobbyist cook and enjoying those elements. And then around each of those recipes, we've built dozens of small ones that anyone can use at any point. So out of the vincis grassi recipe with this vast, beautiful 18th century thing, there's a way of doing it on toast at the end. How do I describe what I do? I've always been a bit of a geek, and consequently when I got really interested in food, the way I approached it was not really to sort of collect recipes or to go to very expensive restaurants or any of the normal routes that you go in. It was more about the fact that I just wanted to know how things worked. And I got terribly excited about things like, I can make my own cheese, or I wonder what happens when you brew your own beer. As things have gone on, you realise that there are more and more people getting involved in this kind of DIY craft element of food, and they are all, big guys with too many piercings and tattoos and check shirts. And it's suddenly become, I think it's caught up with my nerdy interest. And that's lovely. And I'm lucky enough to have a kind of, historically, to have a background that makes me able to look at things in a historical and scientific and technical light as well. One of my big idols is Len Deighton, who was the guy who he wrote some amazing cookbooks, really amazing cookbooks. He also wrote the Ipcress File, which made him a multimillionaire. But he was an ad man originally, and he just decided when they made him the food editor of the Observer magazine. What a bizarre thing to do in the 60s, which is what it did. Elizabeth David was still writing her lovely mimsy recipes about how to roast chicken. And Deighton was an amazing man. He just, how do I communicate about food? He used cartoons, he used chunky, almost masculine kind of writing to communicate these amazing thoughts. And he was able to teach you how to be a great chef in a very short period of time. So I love that approach. I love the idea of trying to find a new way of communicating about something that might have become quite a dullish backwater. And I'm very lucky I'm getting the opportunities to do so. It's such a privilege to be able to eat as a family, but because of what I do, I also get to cook all the family meals, and it's an absolutely wonderful thing. Having a daughter also at that age, and wanting to become involved in her education about technical stuff, about sort of physics and science and handwork, and there's nothing better than getting in the kitchen with her, which is basically what we do. We eat together every meal, we prep together every meal. Really, no two days are the same. Tomorrow I'm hopping in the car at 4:30 in the morning to drive to Harrogate to do a radio show, and then I'll be back that night. The following day we're prepping for a shoot. We do all our still shooting at my house. I'm lucky enough to have studio space, so we shoot there. What would be my advice to people following in my footsteps? I'll tell you what, the really weird thing is that it's not about following in footsteps anymore. I think the worst thing to do is to tie yourself into one of the traditional stereotypes. I teach writing courses, and quite often you'll meet a young writer who is really wedded to the idea of the tradition of writing. I met a chap the other day who types all of his stuff on old Underwoods, and the biggest problem he's got is finding enough ribbon to fill the Underwood. And he doesn't answer emails, and he doesn't have a mobile phone. And I thought, I absolutely love the game you're playing for yourself, but honestly, get a word processor, get yourself VAT registered, get yourself a mobile phone. This is the media we play in now. This is what we do. It's time to toughen up and professionalise. It really is. I guess having originally trained, as I did as a sort of photographer, filmmaker, having worked in advertising on all kinds of different levels of and technologies of media, that's the really cool thing about what I do, because you've got a message, you've got an idea, you've got to get it across. What are we going to do today? And that's the really vital part of it. The BBC have also trained me as a radio producer, so I carry my kit in my bag, and I can go off and find myself half up a mountain somewhere talking to somebody about lamb, and they package that, they make it into a program around you, with you, and then you're out on national media. That's really exciting, and having control of that is thrilling. If you're going to write, and you're going to be successful writing, you write, number one, you write for audiences. You understand your audience and you write for them. That's a very ad man thought. And the second thing is, if I'm going to do this well, I've got to be able to write about something I like. I love to talk about food with people and infect them with an interest in it. It's like a little thing of just, God, that person just left this room feeling a little bit more excited about something I just told them. That's got to be the best feeling ever, hasn't it? It's the same reason you run a restaurant. When people leave at the end of the evening, you look at them and think, you had a great time, and that was my fault. Thank you.